Grandpa, good evening.
Good evening, my child.
Good evening, Grandpa.
Good evening, my son. How are you two doing today?
We are fine. Grandpa, please tell us a story.
Okay, my children. Let me think of a story. Okay. Many years ago, a village faced the biggest fear of their life. There is a mansion that exists in that village. According to history, it was formerly a king's palace. He died mysteriously in the palace along with 6 of his servants, wife, and children. History has it that he was murdered alongside his family in cold blood right in the house. When the new king was crowned, he refused to remain in the palace of a murdered king. Instead, he built for himself a new palace and left the palace of the new king deserted and the gates locked. No one was allowed into the house to clean or touch anything. Months later, people reported that they heard voices in the king's palace and felt someone had gone there to live inside. The new king sent guards to that palace, but they never returned. The gate was shut close before the very eyes of the villagers standing outside. It was at that point, people realized that the king's spirit still lived in the palace. Many years passed. A family man traveled to the village with his wife and their son Tony. Tony is 15, a young, handsome and very vibrant. They came to the village to spend their holiday. Their family house is close to the king's palace. One day a friend he met in the village told him about King's Palace and everything that happened there in the past. As someone who had gotten used to city life, he ignored the tales of ghosts and spirits haunting mansions and took them as stories meant to scare people. While plucking mangoes one evening, he heard the sounds of children in the compound. From the tree, he could see the compound but couldn't see the children. So he decided to scale the fence to take a look properly. The moment his feet landed on the floor of the palace, he felt a wind blow right through him. He heard his name twice. The voice sounded like her mother's voice. He answered and ran towards the entrance of the palace. As he approached, the door opened on its own and he ran into the large quiet palace only to hear the door close behind him. It was the strong sound that made him shudder in fear. He saw skulls of humans in the house. Shoes and slippers scattered. Suddenly he heard laughter. He heard screams. He heard his father's voice. It appeared he was talking to someone upstairs. Then he heard his name again and a sudden pat on his shoulders. He fell backward and screamed. He heard a sound of laughter echo upstairs. Sounds of running feet circled him. Yet he was not able to see anyone close to him. He quickly stood up and ran to the entrance of the door, dragged it open and ran out screaming. All he kept shouting was Jesus. He shouted loud. As he ran, he felt a wind slow him down. It was as if his feet were being held. He quickly jumped and grabbed the fence of the house and rolled himself over the fence to the other side. He fell right on his stomach in his compound. The first person who saw him was his father. He was just stepping out of the house. He screamed for help and everyone in the house rushed out. His white cloth was covered in blood. Mysterious marks appeared on his body. He was asked what he saw, and all he told them were skulls of humans, a sword, and what seemed to be a warrior's cloth and shoes. At that point, his dad confirmed that the history he was told as a child was real. No one till today believed he escaped that. That palace still exists till today and no one has dared to enter.
Wow, this story is scary. Grandpa.
Tony should have listened to what his friend told him. Good, he came out alive.
Yes, good for him. I'm really happy he made it alive.
Yeah.
All right, kids, it's time for bed.
All right, thanks, Grandpa.